Hello and welcome. My name is Brian Caplen, editor of The Banker. I'm with Joy Macknight, the deputy editor, and we're reviewing the top 500 banking brands ranking, which is the cover story in our February issue. So Joy, I mean, obviously the key outstanding thing this year is the ongoing rise of the Chinese banks. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. The Chinese banks did exceptionally well this year. ICBC still number one,
Yep.
But China Construction Bank actually pipped Wells Fargo to the second place. All the other Chinese banks actually have done really well.
And also, I noticed that they had this big uplift as a group, right? So they're the biggest brand value as a country, and growing a lot faster than the States, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So they increased their brand value by almost 25%, while the US only increased by about 8%, which really means that they're really extending the gap between the two countries.
Okay, now one of the things we've seen this year is the European banks coming back a bit. We've had 2 or 3 very bad years in Europe. What's the story there exactly, and who's doing really well?
Yeah, well, again, we saw the contraction of the brands over the last couple of years, but this year is the first time that they've really done a lot better. So you have France and Spain, which has almost double-digit growth. Germany is like 9%, but it sort of masks a bit of an evenness because countries like UK or Italy has much more muted growth of about 2%.
Who's doing really interesting things on the branding front?
Well, I think BBVA is doing some really interesting things. They rebranded this year and they have a new tagline, which is really about creating opportunities, which is a big change from their Adelante tagline, which means ahead,
right,
which they've had for the last decade. So they're really trying to create that customer affiliation in terms of what they're going to deliver to their customers.
Right, and sort of a link in a way between the brand and what they've done digitally, which is also outstanding, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now what about NatWest in the UK? They've also rebranded, haven't they?
Yeah, so again, they decided to really focus on the customer-facing brands. So most of RBS's business is now attributable to NatWest, which saw NatWest really jump in terms of the rankings, but RBS obviously then took a big step back.
Because they've kept that brand, the RBS brand in Scotland, but
yeah,
NatWest is really the key brand now in England.
Yeah, so they had kept RBS for Scotland and also the investment banking. But in Scotland, the RBS, the Royal Bank, really has quite an affinity for the customers in the north. But NatWest is in England and Wales, and Ulster Bank in Ireland.
Okay, and is there any new rankings that we're carrying this year for the first time?
Yeah, excitingly, we've decided to go with a new industry segment, which is Islamic finance.
Right, which is obviously very strong.
Yeah, so it's been growing at about 27% year on year. So we decided to run it this year, and Dubai Islamic Bank made it to the top of the top 10.
Okay, and obviously we look at all the regions. There's been some interesting changes in Africa, haven't we? We've got a new number 1 in Africa.
Yeah, First National Bank, FNB, is now number 1, and it knocked Standard Bank off its platform that it's held for the last 2 years. So it's been making really big strides across Africa.
Okay. So everything to play for in the brands ranking. Thanks, Joy. And make sure you check out your ranking. It's in the February edition of The Banker. Look at it at thebanker.com.